Welcome back to SQL Basics. My name is Marcel, and today we'll be learning about the having clause. This combines what we learned about the where clause, or filtering records, along with the group by clause, where we can filter now records after aggregating. This allows me to ask questions of data like this, for example, like which schools have an average GPA of at least 3.2? Getting me an answer like this, just the two schools. Note that this is different from the where clause, where I could have asked which students have a GPA of at least 3.2, because now I'm asking about groups of students or groups of records, in this case schools, that have an average GPA of at least a certain amount. So let's write this out. Again, we start with our select, in this case just school, that's all that we care about. Which schools? From, as usual, the one table we have, students. And now, because we're asking about the groups, we have to put in the group by. We're grouping by school, that's what we're asking a question about. Here comes the having clause, where we put in the condition. Which schools do we want to show? Well, those that have an average GPA greater than or equal to 3.2 in this example. Let's see this in action. We start with the from clause, getting all the data, and then we're going to group by school. Again, just as a review, that group by is going to squish down all of these records so that we have one record for every unique school. Like this, allowing us to compute those lists. Those lists allow us to compute the average GPA. Now comes the having, where we take that average GPA and highlight the values that satisfy the condition. In this case, just those bottom two rows. The having will now eliminate the other ones. You can see them fading into the background. We only have two records, two groups. Remember, the having is saying something about the group. In this case, those schools. And finally, we move on to our select clause, which is the only columns we actually cared about, in this case the one, which is school. Even though we calculated that GPA, the average GPA, we don't actually want it for our end result, so we're just going to select school. A couple of things to note about the having clause that might help you distinguish it from the where clause, make sure you're not confusing things. For one, notice that a having clause has to have an aggregate function inside of it. That's kind of the basic definition of it. But one way to think about it is that it is what applies to the group by clause for every group in that group by. So in this case, think about it as we're taking the average GPA and filtering some of them out by school. A lot of people accidentally put the school into the having clause, but you don't need to do that because the having is referencing what we already put in the group by. Thank you for watching, and please feel free to go back and re-watch this video to make sure you have a really solid understanding of how the having clause works. Once you're ready, check out the link in the description where you can practice these skills as you learn them in a free online tool, where you can write your own SQL queries and watch them in action just like this. Join us for the next lesson, the final clause, the order by, where we'll learn how to sort and nicely display the information that we queried. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.